Hey there, this is Joakim with the Systems Alliance, and in this video, we're not only going to go over the obvious surprising split between Bungie and Activision, and what makes it surprising is not necessarily the split, but the fact that they retain Destiny, and by they I mean Bungie, but what's going on afterwards because Activision is now being sued because of that split. So first we'll start with the news that you've obviously all heard by now and have been shocked by now, and then just been going, well, what's the future hold? And that news is that Bungie has finally split with Activision. You know, they had split with Microsoft previously and been, I guess, independent for a little bit, but now they become a full-on indie developer, just like CD Projekt Red. And actually, it's between those two who's the largest in the world, though I don't think there's a question on who has the best quality, as CD Projekt Red, they have a long history of great quality. Bungie, with Destiny lately, not so much. And they were still within their 10-year contract with Activision, so the split is pretty surprising. But what's more surprising, something we never see, so for instance, when Bungie left Microsoft kept Halo, now they have 343 Studios, all of that. But Bungie leaving Activision, they managed to take Destiny with them, which is almost unheard of when you actually get to keep your own IP, which means I'm not even sure what Activision was thinking when they signed this. They had called Destiny a disappointment. They obviously realized that they couldn't monetize it the way that they wanted to, because the more they monetized it, the less people bought it, because it just pissed off the gaming community. So it was this thing that was viewed as a failure by Activision, so they said, I guess let's just cut it. Or did they? But before we get into that, here's what Bungie had to say. We have enjoyed a successful 8-year run and would like to thank Activision for their partnership on Destiny. Looking ahead, we're excited to announce plans for Activision to transfer publishing rights for Destiny to Bungie. With our remarkable Destiny community, we are ready to publish on our own, while Activision will increase their focus on owned IP projects. The planned transition process is already underway in its early stages, with Bungie and Activision both committed to making sure the handoff is as seamless as possible. So a couple things on that. One, they say Activision is going to focus on their own IP. What IP do they even have? They don't really have much of anything, which is also part of the problem, because without Blizzard, Activision is nothing. They're just Call of Duty. All their other games hardly sell anything, and definitely hardly anything compared to Call of Duty, and hardly anything compared to all of the Blizzard titles. So that's what happens when you kill franchises like Guitar Hero by trying to monetize it. That's what was happening with Destiny. They killed it. Maybe they didn't want it to end up like Guitar Hero. Who knows? But the reason it ended up or was going the line of Guitar Hero is because they were the ones screwing it up. I mean, put blame on Bungie, of course, because they were going along with it, or maybe they had to, but this is Activision making those calls. So taking a look at all of this, I've mentioned a few reasons why Activision might have given Bungie Destiny, because once again, that's unheard of. Developers of this size don't leave publishers. I mean, this is the biggest one to ever leave. It is a huge deal. And like I said, they might be right now, even over CD Projekt Red, the largest indie developer. I guess technically they're indie, even though they got over 1,000 employees out there. But in previous videos, I had mentioned that Activision was so disappointed in Destiny. They didn't like that the good DLC that all the fans actually liked playing, didn't make them as much money as they wanted. But they had driven away their entire fan base. There used to be YouTube channels, Let's Play, stuff like that, focused on Destiny, that had to move away because, one, it wasn't fun anymore, so it wasn't even a good game, fun enough for them to play. And two, the views were down. No one wanted to watch. They couldn't make a living off of it, so why bother playing it? Go play another game. During their earnings call, Activision specifically called Destiny out, calling the most recent Forsaken DLC a disappointment. And Bungie on Twitter responded to that saying, "We disagree. We think this is a great DLC, probably the best we've ever put out, at least for Destiny 2, and we consider it a success." And that wasn't too long ago. That was only a couple months ago. Clearly, the split was already happening there. I mean, there was clear animosity between the two going on, and a fundamental disagreement of what's good and what's bad. And Activision must have seen Destiny as not necessarily a liability, but just something that they can't grow and make money exponentially on, because it was one of the best-selling games of 2017. So it was already making a ton of money, but for Activision, that just wasn't good enough. The weird part, though, is that Destiny was still bringing in money. So it made me wonder, if you get rid of Destiny, I mean, you're not replacing it with anything. And sure, Activision had teams helping out Bungie, but still, that was for content that probably wasn't released in the right time, didn't have enough time to finish. So yeah, Bungie had help releasing content, but it was not good content except for Forsaken. So very odd that they'd still let a revenue maker like Destiny go, especially when there was going to be multiple games, unless Activision really thought, hey, they're not going to listen to us. Like, we can't do what we want to do. They can't do what they want to do. Maybe it's just best to end this. So as you can see, there's obviously been a huge disagreement between the two companies, and none of that is more apparent than when everyone at Bungie's HQ was told, hey, we're splitting with Activision. The entire place erupted in cheers. They were popping bottles of champagne according to people who were there. So think about that. You're being told, hey, our publisher, our parent publisher has been pushing us to do this stuff. We're splitting from them and we're keeping Destiny. To have everyone cheer shows just how much animosity there was towards Activision. Clearly something that none of the employees liked. They probably all felt terrible, and so this was such a sweet release for them to go independent and do their own thing, because just imagine everyone constantly hating on you for the stuff that you create. Your creation, everyone hates it, but it's because your creation has been, zombified, taken over, Frankenstein by Activision. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty crazy thing. This is the biggest split of all time between a developer and a publisher, and the developer, everyone there was cheering and popping champagne. So to me, that is just a little nuts. So obviously, Bungie didn't like Activision. They're happy to be separate. The internet's cheering. All the fans are cheering. Are we going to get the Bungie of old that made those great Halo games? Well, I'm not sure yet. I'm not convinced yet, because Bungie has made so many mistakes with Destiny, and a lot of them weren't necessarily Activision's fault. I mean, first of all, it was their choice in the beginning to get in bed with Activision, and you knew what you were getting, but they did it anyway. As Amanda Waller in Justice League Unlimited said, she knew Lex Luthor was a snake, and she let him bite her anyway. That's what Bungie did. But obviously, you would hope, okay, well, maybe they're going to be more like a CD Projekt Red. Maybe they're going to take their time with their games, be more like a BioWare, pre-EA influence. Are they going to take their time, get it right, release new content when it's ready and when it's just done right and tested and everything like that? Is the game going to be what they promised in the beginning? Because keep in mind, Destiny in the beginning, the hype about it, it was going to be like Mass Effect, except like this just massive game. It was going to be insane. You could do all this stuff, and then boop, story out. The gameplay, while good, I mean, it would just end up being, just a looter shooter, nothing more, very surface level, and disappoint a lot of people. Destiny 2 comes out, they're like, okay, they spent so much time getting Destiny 1 up to a playable level. Destiny 2 is going to take off from there and go to even bigger heights. Well, nope. It actually dropped back down. And now, finally, when the Forsaken DLC has come, it's maybe back up to just Destiny 1 level, which was already pretty flawed. And I know Activision, obviously, with everyone cheering and popping bottles of champagne, Activision clearly had influence over them that they didn't like, but Destiny still made a lot of bad decisions on their own. So while they can go ahead and start doing the right things, I'm not sure that they're necessarily 100% guaranteed to do that. They've shown some pretty poor judgment in the past, the recent past. So does it make me think that they're going to be better in the future? Yeah, they'll probably be better. The games will probably be better. Will they be up to what people think they can be and what they were when they were doing things with Microsoft and Halo? I don't know. I don't know if they're at that level yet, to be honest. But they have the personnel, they have the ability to do it. They won't have all the resources as Activision, but I think they can still do it. Because to be honest, what Destiny needs, forget, Destiny 2. The game should just be called Destiny. Just like World of Warcraft is always World of Warcraft. They have different expansions, but it's always World of Warcraft. I think that's what Destiny needs to be. Forget 3 and 4 and all that stuff. Just go, we're Destiny, and here's our expansion packs. Make it easy, make it accessible like World of Warcraft does. Don't make it like how Activision was making them do it, where you had to buy all of these just to play the game right. I mean, that's what alienated a lot of fans. That's what made the entry bar for a new player so high, and just, I mean, if you were a new player, you take a look at what you had to buy, it wasn't even worth it. You know, they had to put special sales on at BlizzCon just to get people back into the game, but in reality, there shouldn't be a sale. It should just be the price. It should just be Destiny. So will Bungie do that? You know, we'll just have to see. So on to Activision. You know, what does this mean for them? Well, right now, it's causing them to be sued. And sued by who? Well, their own investors, because them, just like all of us fans, no one had any clue that this split was coming. And sure, maybe you split off and you keep Destiny, but that's not what happened. Activision split with Bungie, and Bungie kept Destiny, something unheard of. And because of that, they're suing. So multiple law firms have now filed class action lawsuits against Activision, stating that Activision gave false and misleading statements leading up to the split, even though they knew it was coming. And according to these lawsuits, investors lost money because of the split. And yes, their stock did drop sharply and hasn't ever recovered like many have. So if you look at, you know, where EA and 2K, all these gaming stocks were, and really just the stock market in general, the NASDAQ, when you take a look at what was happening, all the stocks were going down, but then the recovery happened and all of them shot back up, except for Activision Blizzard. It didn't. In fact, it tanked on this announcement 10%, and it's basically not recovered since then. The lawsuit covers any investors who purchased securities in Activision Blizzard starting on August 2nd, 2018, all the way to January 10th, 2019, when the split was announced. And as I said, yeah, maybe it hasn't been the financial success that Activision wanted, but it's still a revenue driver. I mean, it did bring in $500 million on its first day. So maybe other than Call of Duty, it was their biggest game, taking Blizzard out of it. So why would they let that go? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And on top of that, there's 2 other class action lawsuits, and they're saying that Activision is now under investigation for securities fraud because of basically what you're seeing right here. So what does that mean? Does that mean the guys at top knew about it? Did they maybe sell some shares in advance of the announcement that they already knew was coming? Obviously that would be illegal, so we'll just have to see where this goes. Clearly Activision Blizzard is in a lot of trouble because of this split. So the annual pass for Destiny, Bungie and Activision will still partner through the end of fall of 2019, but after that, that's when it really becomes 100% Bungie's baby, basically. Like, they have 100% control of the game, and they said it's the sole focus of them going forward. They're not going to be doing any other games. So the Chinese investor who gave them a ton of cash, it looks like, as we hope, they're just hoping to cash in on whatever Bungie does, not trying to influence them to put in loot boxes and microtransactions and stuff like that. So let me know your thoughts about all this. What do you think about the split between Bungie and Activision? How happy are you that Bungie is now independent? What do you think of the state of Activision now that they've lost arguably their second biggest game only to Call of Duty? Do you think they can survive on just Call of Duty alone? Do you see anything else on the horizon for them? Let me know your thoughts about that. And let me know what you think about the lawsuits against Activision Blizzard resulting from this split. You know, is this something that you can see really, really hurting them? Do you think it's going to drive the stock lower? Like, what are your thoughts about all this? Let me know down in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Twitter, and we'll catch you next time.